satellites in the location in August of 1977. And even any secret satellites by, for example, Soviet Union, which very often use what's known as the Molniya orbit, would not be able to create a signal lasting for 72 seconds. It would be much faster. This could also not be solar activity, because in August of 1977, the solar activity was generally very low, and this was unlikely to be some kind of an internal error or a software glitch, because the analysis of data for decades and decades afterwards and before that discovered nothing similar. The signal was indeed unique, and none of the previous detections showed anything similar. And so what could it then be? And what's the most likely explanation that so far most scientists seem to agree with? Well, here it's best to explain this by showing you this picture as a schematic. Here, all of the signs point at this being a somewhat unusual, somewhat rare, but also extremely powerful astrophysical event. And most likely what's known as a maser flare, also referred to as superradiance burst, from some kind of a small, cold, neutral hydrogen cloud, like the one you see right here. Or as someone described it in a previous video that I made approximately a few months ago, this was basically a hydrogen cloud fart. But in this case, a hydrogen fart produced as a result of some kind of a powerful object, such as for example a magnetar, illuminating the source from a slightly different angle. And so here you can kind of compare this to a very powerful laser shooting at a cloud and making the cloud suddenly brighten up in certain frequencies. And because this was a hydrogen cloud, it produced what's known as a hydrogen line. But much more importantly, this is not a line. This is actually confirmation of a previous proposition as well, where researchers were even able to confirm this by observing so much similar events coming from clouds that were producing extremely similar emissions, but just not as powerful. And so in some sense, this is a major confirmation for this really intriguing proposition from something like a year ago. Which of course suggests that these cold hydrogen clouds seem to be able to produce these very powerful emissions that possibly mimic communication from civilizations that we've been searching for since the beginning of SETI. And because the newly calculated velocity of 74 km per second actually matches other similar clouds, right now this seems to be the best possible explanation. And many such concentrations of hydrogen gas exist in the galactic halo and actually pretty much all over the place, usually produced by very powerful emissions from very massive stars that are either about to go supernova or are about to become white dwarfs, neutron stars, or black holes, with most of them leaving behind these extremely large clouds, moving at velocities of 25 to 90 kilometers per second. And we've actually discussed one of the recent discoveries from a few hundred light years away from us that seems to directly mimic one of these clouds and was actually discovered completely by accident. But in this case, it's in a different position from the wow signal, and so we don't think it was produced by that cloud. This just proves that these clouds are all over the place, and when something very powerful shines on them, they can occasionally produce these very powerful radio emissions. But there's maybe one small problem with this explanation right now. At the moment, none of these clouds, or at least the ones we know of, have been able to produce anything as powerful as the wow signal. Because at 250 gram speeds, this makes it truly exceptional. And so there is still definitely a bit of a mystery, and there is maybe still a tiny chance that this is aliens after all. Probably not, but maybe. Which means that in the next few months, possibly the next few years, we'll hear more about this event and potential explanations, or possibly some other explanations involving something entirely different. So this is definitely not the end of the story yet. But I guess even more importantly, we now are pretty certain it was not some kind of a radio source coming from our own planet. It was definitely not satellites, and not emissions coming from the moon or the sun, and indeed seems to be something from very far away, from some kind of an astrophysical source. With this incredible work also serving as a really important reminder that some of the most surprising discoveries are basically hidden in plain sight, waiting to be unlocked with new perspectives and new analytical tools. But I guess for now that's all I learned tonight. We'll come back and discuss this more once there's an update. Until then, check out the previous video in the description. All of the studies and relevant links should be somewhere right there as well. Thank you for watching, subscribe, come back tomorrow to learn something else. Support this channel on Patreon, where you can find additional videos without any ads, and can DM me directly, or by joining the channel membership that grants you early access. Alternatively, you can also buy the Wonderful Person t-shirt in the description. Stay wonderful,
Reloading!
Supply box is down. One to go.
Friendly loadout drops on the way. Gas is moving in. New safe zone located. Contract failed. You lost the objective.
Moving here. Changing mag.
Every so often, a movie comes along where all you can really say is, wow. Not in a, I can't believe they were able to make this kind of way. No, more like a, I can't believe they chose to make this kind of way. Such is the case with Red Sonja to throw a punch. Anyway, after years of failed attempts, and a revolving door of writers, directors and actors that makes DC look like a model of organised efficiency, the cast and crew were finally locked in and Red Sonja was shot in Bulgaria in 2022. Then, nothing happened for the next 3 years, which is always a sure sign you've got a hit on your hands. Just ask Ironhearts. But as it turns out, you can't keep a good movie, or otherwise, down forever. And so here we find ourselves, citizens of 2025, finally able to experience the cinematic powerhouse that is Red Sonja. And what an experience it was! How can I sum up this film in a few words? Well, imagine taking a particularly goofy episode of Xena Warrior Princess from the 1990s, stretching it out into 3 times the length, stripping out most of the witty dialogue and fun characters, and treating the whole thing like it was some dead serious fantasy epic with deep and meaningful things to say about the human condition. That's pretty much what you get with Red Sonja, the kind of project where everyone's in on the joke except the film itself, which ironically makes it even funnier. I shit you not, I genuinely had to check that I was watching the right version of this film, like it wasn't some low-budget knockoff like The Asylum or a parody intended for adult audiences. But nope, this was real. This was a serious movie that people actually made. And it's superb. The script is lean and perfectly proportioned. The characters are fleshed out and well-rounded. The visuals are easy on the eye and... Wait, what? Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Anyway, let's discuss the plots. So Red Sonja begins in the kind of peaceful, sexually egalitarian, racially diverse medieval village that only modern Hollywood casting agencies can summon up. Sonja herself is living a happy and idyllic life with her mum. No idea where her dad is, of course, but let's not worry about that. But oh no, then a bunch of bad guys show up and start killing people, including this giant muscle man here. Resistance is never really explained, and then the screen fades to black and I've got no fucking idea how any of that stuff resolves. It doesn't matter though, because we skip forward like 20 years and Sonja's now living happily as a hermit in the forest. And fuck me, they must have some pretty good beauty salons out there, because she looked like she just walked in from the streets of Beverly Hills. Anyway, whatever. Her peaceful life is in a bunch of innocent forest animals, so she tracks them back to their camp for a bit of payback. I mean, there's like 100 of them, including fully armed soldiers, so I'm not really sure what she expects to accomplish, but she's like, nah, it'll be fine. But as it turns out, it is not fine. And pretty soon she loses a fight to this albino chick who left her eyebrows at home, and ends up getting thrown into gladiator pits to fight for sport. And apart from one guy who's a legit cage fighter in real life, I love how the male and female gladiators all look and act like they've never thrown a punch in their entire lives, and live harmoniously together amongst accommodation without a single forceful game of hide the sausage. Yeah, sure, okay. Rona meets her amongst them for some reason, looking like she couldn't give less of a fuck if she tried. To be fair, I probably wouldn't either if I was in this movie. Ah well. I think this chick here is my favourite though. If ever there was one image that sums this film up perfectly, it's this right here.
Moving.
Anyway, of course, Sonya turns out to be the best gladiator who ever lived, which is interesting considering she's never done any sword training or won a fight in her entire
Gas is
life.
inbound.
I mean, I can believe that she's good at hunting and stuff, but how does that translate into fighting other human beings with swords? Ah, who fucking cares? So, evil Emperor guy decides that she has to fight one of her friends to the death, but she's like, nah, it'll be fine. But it's not fine, and Rona Mitra dies so that she can get released from her contract early. Then Sonya has to fight a big monster thing that's being mind-controlled by the evil Emperor guy, but that's okay because she removes the control collar, so the monster attacks evil Emperor guy and everyone then escapes. Wow, that was super easy. Barely an inconvenience, in fact. But evil Emperor guy isn't done yet, so he sends the chick with no eyebrows and an army of soldiers in plastic armor to hunt them down. Then there's a big battle scene which stretched the movie's budget to its absolute limits, and all the plastic soldiers get killed, and Sonya dies for a while as well, but then she gets better, and no eyebrow chick turns against evil Emperor guy, and they double KO each other, and evil Emperor guy is like, sorry for being evil, and Sonya's like, it's cool, bro. Then he dies, and everyone goes happily ever after, and that's it, that's the plot for Red Sonja.
Fire solution was bad. Miss.
Fuck me, where do I even start with this one? Should I talk about the abominable CGI, the meandering and nonsensical plot, the costumes that look like they were stolen from a medieval-themed restaurant, the horrendous dialogue that must have made the actors physically sick?
I have a wooden sword. I guess it's not a giant beaver then.
You fucking retard, man.
The character motivations that make no sense, or the performances that range from I'm far too good for this shit to I'm not good enough for any shit. On the other hand, there's definite upsides to this movie that I think we really ought to talk about. No, Drinker, get a hold of yourself, man! Ah, motherfucker! The villain's motivation had me genuinely confused for most of the movie. He's looking for the missing piece of some ancient book that already allowed him to build advanced technology and conquer the world, which raises the rather obvious point. Why risk everything for this book when you've already achieved all of your objectives already? What are you gonna do? Conquer the world even harder? The only explanation the script provides is that he wants to finish his story. Fucking what? Was this like a script note that somehow made it into the actual dialogue or what? Ah, who cares? It does feel like he's played by an absolute pussy who talks like a modern-day millennial and possesses all the authority and masculinity of Pedro Pascal in a rainbow-coloured onesie. Seriously, how the fuck did this guy rise to become an emperor? Who would even follow him? And why? On the plus side, lead actress Matilda Lutz really swung for the fences as Sonya, I'll say that much. I don't imagine there's any Oscar wins in her future, but she definitely got in shape for the role, and the movie's not afraid to prove it. I mean, I can't shake the feeling that the producers might have lied to her about the kind of movie she was making, though. Red Sonja from the comics was very male gaze oriented, and this is a completely different story. Are you sure about that? Are you really sure about that? Don't get me wrong, I'm all in favour of hot women in skimpy outfits, but it does make it kind of difficult to take them seriously as fighters, especially when they're taking down men in full battle armour like it's nothing. Valeria from Conan the Barbarian was able to get away with this, partly because the actress playing her was like 6 feet tall, partly because she worked her ass off to learn sword fighting and actually looked like she knew what she was doing, but mostly because the movie kept her somewhat grounded and believable. Such is not the case here, and I could live with all of this if Red Sonja was just a bit of goofy fun that doesn't take itself too seriously. Shit man, even the Bridget Nielsen movie from the 80s kind of knew how ridiculous it was and was happy to play up to it, and it had Arnold Schwarzenegger on hand to give a bit of charisma, but this version actually thinks it's telling some powerful, serious story with believable characters that you're supposed to respect and get invested in, and gosh darn it, it's just so cute. Ultimately, Red Sonja feels like some weird time capsule dug up from 2018 when the whole girl boss who just needs to realise her inner potential trope was in full swing, and you could probably get away with nonsense like this. These days though, audiences are pretty wise to that kind of shit, and when you think about it, Red Sonja was destined to be skewered from all sides. Normal people would see it for the shallow, preachy and pretentious nonsense that it was, while fans of the message would be infuriated by the shameless exploitation and the fact that Sonja wasn't turned into a modern black lesbian. You truly can't please everyone, but Red Sonja was one of those unlucky movies that managed to please absolutely no one, and considering that it was left in the can for 3 years, it probably should have stayed buried. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
gentlemen, it's Rick. Welcome back to a brand new YouTube video. Hope you guys are having a good day. And I feel like everybody knows this, that not many people are excited for Black Ops 7.
You're losing ground. Move it.
A huge decline, and there's so many reasons to explain why that's happening. But I want to watch this video from T-Dog Smitty called The Real Reason Call of Duty is Dying. And I want to see what he has to say.
Reloading.
Already, but other than that, let's get into the video.
For the first time since 2019, on the defensive. Pre-order numbers are lagging behind the competition. Trailers are getting mass downvoted, and there's this general feel in the air that COD is in trouble, but not for the reasons you think. Now, they recently announced, due to fan backlash, that the carry-forward skin system will not be returning in this year's COD.
When he called the content creators out for trying to say that this was a huge win for the Call of Duty community, that this is going to change the direction of the franchise, make Black Ops 7 one of the best games we have played in a very long time. But I think the majority of the community will agree with this. Hit that like button. We know.
Tracking a high-value target. Weapon
Yes,
top.
we might not see American
Moving.
Dad or Beavis and Butthead.
Enemies are dropping into the area. Watch the skies.
Those crazy, wacky ass shoots within a store. Yes, Activision does not care about you. They only care about money and
Changing mags.
so what are they gonna do? They're gonna say all this nice stuff before the game is launched, try to hype up the community as much as possible, or at least those people are still brainwashed, and make them buy the game, and then go back to the same shit they've been doing for the past 20 years. Don't listen to them. Don't fall for their bullshit. Just realize this is all just noise. Trying to make people better.
There's a deeper issue that they conveniently did not talk about. Not a single word.
Gas is closing in. Get to the new safe
Moving
zone.
here.
No more fighting in the gulag.
Throwing smoke! For 6 years now. Something that's taken root and has led to a player base that has sort of had enough. There's no excitement for the because we already know
You've got a loadout drop inbound.
it's going to be the same slugfest as the last few years. Same disbanding lobbies and same SBMM dragging us through the mud every time we do well. But to really understand how we got to this point, the absolute low point of hype for a new COD game, we need to rewind the clock. Like, way back. Let's talk about the franchise.
Gun at my location. Dropping magazine.
All bounty targets are KIA. Well done.
Algorithm that it is now.
Moving.
I feel like I'm watching a movie, man. Holy shit. Before we go any further, I'm just gonna state this, okay?
Enemy
If
UAV
skill-based
overhead.
matchmaking is in Call of Duty. I don't care
Yes,
how good the
inbound.
maps are, how good the weapons are, how
You've
good
made it to the top 10.
skill-based matchmaking stays in this game and it stays as strict as it's been for the past few years. It's not going to be a good
Switching
Call of
mag.
Duty. It's not going to be so many people. I don't know how many more we have to scream and shout that so many people do not want to play. It wasn't in the older Call of Duties. I don't care what they say for it. Go try to play a match of MW2 2009 and you immediately, I don't care, even in 2025 will find a match like that. In 2025, playing Black Ops 6 takes 5 to 10 minutes to find a game sometimes. That's how strict this is. So, I don't care how good the game is. If Black Ops 7 gets you the best thing they ever created, if skill-based matchmaking is in the game, if it's in the game, we are not going to enjoy it. I'm saying that right now.
You remember Medal of Honor? Back in the day, that was a big military shooter.
We're going
And
way
way back in the West, Nintella was part of that franchise before they pieced out and formed Infinity. These guys
Gas is inbound. Marking new safe zone.
solid. But then
Got a contract here.
Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and that was the spark that lit up the golden age of COD.
Top 5. Bring home the win.
In this, I know there's a lot of new Call of Duty players out here who have just started playing with these past few years.
Reloading.
There was nothing better than prime Call of Duty. It literally was just like, it was something you can get away from. Like, you know, you can have problems at school, you can have problems in your personal life. You can just go and turn on that Xbox 360, put this game in, and just escape everything and have a blast. You don't get that in games anymore, man. You really don't. Ooh, these sounds.
Yes,
Oh my
moving.
god, bring back so many memories.
It was the chef's kiss perfection. When you hit matchmaking, it searched for a lobby with
Swapping magazine.
connection, maybe a few similar stats, but nothing too crazy.
Where did that go?
Just good, clean matchmaking.
You're in the top
Once you were
three.
in
Don't
that
let up
lobby,
now.
You stayed in that lobby. You saw their ranks, their clan tags, their prestige icons.
That right there alone is one of the biggest things I miss for Call of Duty. You made friends, you made enemies. Sometimes you teamed up with your enemies. You always try to play better than them, which made your team overall mostly better because you're both trying your ass off. It was so much fun being able to talk shit for really 2-3 hours with the same lobby you started with at the beginning of the match season. And then you can finish off.
Gas is closing in. Relocating safe zone. Only two left.
I'm reloading. Rid of that. I don't know whose idea it was. That needs to come back. Lobbies should not disband anymore. Keep the same lobbies, and it really just cuts down on waiting time.
You voted on the next map. You made classes while talking smack about your fight.
Yes.
There was a vibe. There was a community aspect to this game. The matches themselves, perfection.
Gas is closing in.
Attachments, maybe early.
High value target marked. Expect resistance.